to our beautiful listeners to Karuna-Yoga with Compassion. I'm your host, Kiran, and I'm so grateful to have you join us today as we delve into the rich tapestry of yoga. Now, when many of us think of yoga, the first thing that often comes to mind are the incredible physical postures, the stretches, the balances, the inversions, and rightly so. These are captivating, challenging, and profoundly beneficial. What you're thinking of, dear listeners, is asana, the third limb of the eight limbed path of Ashtanga Yoga. It's perhaps the most famous, the most visible, and for many, the entry point into our ancient practice. But as we'll all explore today, asana is so much more than just physical exercise. It's a profound tool for self discovery, discipline, and connecting with our inner selves. And speaking of deeper understanding and rich experience, I'm absolutely thrilled to announce our very special guest today. Joining us all the way from Netherlands, a place where yoga roots are growing beautifully under my esteemed teacher, Adarsh Williams. Adarsh is a beacon of wisdom and compassion in the yoga world, and today we have the incredible opportunity to engage in a heart to heart conversation with him about his views on asana practice, his personal journey, and with this powerful limb. So much more. We want you to be part of this conversation as well. Our phone lines are open for your calls, your questions, and your insights. You can reach us right now at 1877 Bali 92, or just remember the number 1877 265 5992. I repeat, 1877 265 5992. So get ready to deepen your understanding of asana, hearing inspiring stories, and perhaps even shift your perspective on what yoga truly means. Let's dive in with Adarsh. Welcome, Adarsh.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. Um, I would lead with the first question, which I'm sure many of us are thinking. Tell us a little about yourself and what led you to yoga.
Yeah, well, my name is Adarsh Williams. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I became interested in yoga as a teenager. I think for me, it was largely to help with some of the mental, I think, challenges I was having at the time, the anxiety, the sleeplessness. I think some of it's normal for most teenagers, but I really struggled. So I became interested in meditation, and I picked up a small book on Yoga Nidra that helped me to find a way to begin balancing some of the emotional distress, and that began my yoga practice. So it was quite unstructured, I would say. I just had this general idea around quieting my mind. So I would sit there or I would lie there and just
Uh,
meditate.
that's interesting. I remember my beginnings into yoga was also try to led with the attempt to understand my anxieties and my emotions, strong emotions at that time. I
Uh,
guess we have
yeah.
that in common.
Yeah,
So,
it's a fertile groundwork for sure. I think that a lot of people will become acquainted with yoga because of difficulty, right? Otherwise, we're probably not as likely to start.
yeah.
Now I meet a lot of people in the Netherlands who are dealing with burnout.
Mm,
And I'm quite curious about this. I think for Americans, burnout is something that many people feel or experience, but there's
yeah.
no real way to deal with it, right? You just kind of keep on charging through. Where the Dutch have like a program basically, and if you're burned out, then they will help you to address that. So I meet a lot of people now coming into yoga because of that, which is interesting because similar to me, they're coming in because not because their back hurts or because they want to
Mm,
lose weight, but because they're really dealing with mental distress. And I think that's fertile ground because yoga, as you know, is, well, it's a mental practice.
It
with
is.
a physical component.
So, what's your personal definition of yoga, and how do you understand when you put together the whole? Take a step back and look at it as an ashtanga yoga.
Yeah. Well, like any Sanskrit word, there's going to be multiple ways to interpret that. And
True.
of course, the strict definition would have something to do with mental stillness. But yoga can also mean practice. I think when someone says to me they're engaged with yoga, it's a way of saying that they're engaged in a practice of becoming better. So, personal development or individuation, self realization. I think that's what, a lot of people, including me, if I'm saying I'm practicing yoga, that's what I'm indicating, that I'm working on myself.
Mm.
And of course, it's not a perfect solved situation, but at least I can say that, yep, still at it. Still doing my best, still trying to improve. Certainly have days that I feel like I'm doing great and give myself a pat on the back. And other times I can see where maybe I took a misstep, and I want to try to improve that. Just like falling off the yoga mat, you just keep on getting back on.
Mm. So when you say practice
Mhm.
and the way you relate to the practice, I'm sure it has evolved over the years, right? So
Mhm.
when you were beginning practicing in the beginning, the concept of asana versus how you practice today, your
Mhm.
association and the definition of asana and how you see it, what's the relationship like and how has it changed?
Well, I'm still quite engaged with the asana practice. You know, I tell my students that yoga is quite clever, that if you sit down to meditate, as you and I tried as young people, it's not easy because obviously your mind begins to wander or you just space out or whatever. So the ancients were quite clever that they began. The mind is slippery, but they could feel that they can engage with the breathing. So they did that. They can engage with the body, and they did that. And I think it's the same for me that, to sit down and meditate, well, actually, I can do that. But I know when I engage with my body, then the meditative experience is also much richer. When I wake up in the morning, I want to get going. I want to move. I feel that's quite natural. And I love my yoga practice as a gateway into then whatever I'm doing, whether it's
Mm.
sitting or working or whatever else. But it's not just a like exercise routine. It's
Mm.
also infused with energy, with the intention. And I do believe that a major part of yoga practice is building that vital energy, building that vitality.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to charge my battery. That's definitely one of the ways I see Ashtanga. And yeah.
My personal experience, whenever I'm doing an asana practice, in the beginning it used to be just learning the routine, just learning the pose itself. It felt extremely superficial. But now, after several years or several months of practicing and so on, the way I approach an asana, even though it's new for the first time, or I have done it several times, there's always this internal awareness that I lead with, and it has become a part of me. It's like I'm observing various parts of my body, what's it's doing, various muscles, or
Yeah.
how's my mind at, where's my breath like. So that deepening of the experience has been coming along with my practice through the ages or years of
Yeah.
experience and practice. Yeah.
I think that's right. And as yoga teachers, I think one of the most valuable, things that we're helping people to learn is
Mm,
that body awareness, or learning how to
right.
feel, learning how to sense, learning how to be embodied.
Yeah.
um, yeah. And even though it's quite a simple thing in a way, just to
Mhm.
pause and feel, is it's new for a lot of people. Most
That's
of
true.
us see exercise as something quite external. You're
Mhm.
looking at your form, you're looking at your movements, and so on. But yoga is something that invites a deeper sensitivity,
Mhm.
and it then flows over to many other aspects of life. You can savor your life experience much more. To me, it's a natural gateway to mindfulness.
Yeah. And sorry, we had a technical difficulty and we lost each other for a second here, but we are back online. So continuing with the conversation, Adarsh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Apologies to our listeners, but that's life. That's you living in the moment. Coming back to that. So, Adarsh, I'm curious about something. You are obviously not Indian from the Indian descent or anything, and yoga is extremely an Eastern philosophy, and the texts of yoga and the verbatims and the terminologies and prayers and everything are in Sanskrit. So I'm curious about in your journey. Did you face any difficulties, in terms of cultural nuances or the language in your yogic path? The reason I'm curious about is because when I am from the descent and obviously from the culture and the background, meeting with people who are Westerners and trying their level best to get the names right or things like that, I'm really impressed. So I wanted to hear from your side of the view, how is it from your side? How do you see?
Yeah, well, I think that there's going to be advantages and disadvantages, right? I think that, for example, the pronunciation maybe of certain language things would be more natural for a native, Indian language speaker. But I think some of the perspectives that a non-native person might have for yoga can be quite helpful and valuable. So it can kind of go both ways, right? But before I tell you my kind of good thing, I'll tell you the not so good thing. Some of the just cultural nuances of Indian culture can be very foreign for an American person. And, I think that for me, it was always, just being curious and trying to just take it in as it was without too much, knee-jerk reaction, right? Just sort of let it wash over me. But I've always been pretty flexible. I've lived in a few countries. I now live in the Netherlands and I'm not Dutch, even though, I can kind of fake it till I make it. Yeah, but I was going to say how, it's been interesting for me to come to yoga with a bit more of a Western point of view. And my first trip to India, I remember taking with me this, it was, I think, 25 cassette tapes of Tony Robbins' personal power program. That my friend, it was so funny. My friend had bought this from like a home shopping network thing. She bought it on cassette, right? The old school tapes. And she never listened to it, but she gave it to me. And then right before I left, I said, you know what? I'll take that with me. And this was, the early thousands, so a little bit of a different internet age. So it was just something to do. But I remember going through Tony Robbins', personal power tapes and how much of it reminded me of Ashtanga yoga, especially these concepts around, manifesting and creating your reality. And I really saw how he was developing that, personal power. But the yogis have a lot of the same ideas. There's just a different cultural approach, but I would say the goal is often the same. And even Tony Robbins has evolved from his old 80s kind of ways. And even he is, I think, seeking something that's a bit more evolved than just...
So let's take this a bit further. So from your experience to actually trying to understand and get into the roots of the culture and roots of the language and the essence of the yoga. And now when we see the widespread adoption throughout the world, Instagram is full of people posting their, near perfect postures and everything. And how do you see this modern adoption of the postures especially?
Yeah, well, it's a mixed bag, right? There's a lot of things that are great that are going on and a lot of things that are questionable. But that seems to be reality. I'm pretty optimistic that by and large, it's going to give people exposure to something. The amount of people that tell me that they've, like my class is the first class they've taken, but they've done a lot of yoga classes on YouTube.
right? And I think that's really interesting and great, and might give them an entry point to yoga that they would not normally have if it were just the old school where you had to go find some yogi, in a hermitage somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, right. So, on the other hand, of course, I think that yoga has been, very diluted or whatever. It's been, what's the word, commoditized in such a way that it's pretty questionable. But it's like anything, there's going to be always so many mixed ways of using it. So I would say that it's always important for teachers to have a clear intention, to
Mm.
know what they're doing and their purpose behind it. And by the way, that may not be the same purpose that you or I have.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, I think that it really is a community thing, and they're
Mm.
not so much, and they don't want to get enlightened. They just want to get together with their friends. It's something they can do that doesn't involve alcohol. It's something they can have maybe a deeper conversation. Even if it's not about some, esoteric philosophy, they can have a meaningful conversation between themselves. And I think that's a powerful thing, and I'm definitely here for it. And even online communities, things like this, people can listen in and they feel this connection to fellow practitioners. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
since I run a yoga studio here,
Yeah.
and I do see there are some practitioners who actually mention that they come here for the community. They enjoy the act of doing an asana, spending an hour.
Mhm.
They are not there to challenge themselves beyond a certain point, but
Mhm.
it's healthy. They're doing a good thing. It's a healthy thing.
Yeah.
They feel that they're spending the time wisely, not sitting into the
Mhm.
computer or partying or something,
Yeah.
and they get this sense of movement along with other people, and they get out of their house, and that's that, which is truly admirable.
100%.
Every little bit counts.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so true, and this is a classic thing for yoga teachers, that you're not teaching the student based
uh,
on your goals.
yeah,
You're teaching them based on their goals. So
yeah,
meeting them
yeah,
where they are, and I always just ask, like, hey man, why are you here? Why are you getting into yoga? What is your interest? And I hear all
right,
kinds of things, right? I'm
right,
interested in my consciousness expanding, or I'm interested in meditation, or I'm interested in community,
yeah.
all of, or my back pain. And all of these points are perfect for our beginning, right? So now the yoga begins. And then
Hmm.
where it goes from there is, wow, such a wonderful mystery, right? It can go in so many directions.
It
Uh,
certainly takes them on a surprising path, because when I see
Indeed.
them, they walk in saying, "Oh, my back's hurting," or some people will come in and saying, yoga is just for stretching. We'll go to the gym," and then suddenly we make them do certain things, certain poses like a handstand or a headstand. They're like, we didn't know there's so
Yeah.
much strength involved.
Totally, and
And they get
even
hooked.
the physical thing they're doing, the experiences they have, the moments of insight,
That's
the
right.
aha, and so many people have told me that they had this moment of clarity during their yoga lesson, and
Uh-huh.
it was nothing especially deep or philosophical, just downward dogs, but that person would still have the insight they needed in their life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really got a magic to it. And I do think it's because of the underlying intention, the underlying deeper philosophy of it.
Mm.
Just because that intention is there, I think it inherently makes the practice much more meaningful than simply exercise,
Mm.
even though
Well,
ostensibly we're just doing exercise. So it's kind of an interesting thing.
right.
Yeah.
Uh, just a reminder for our listeners, we want to hear from you. Please join in the conversation. Lines are open. The number is 1-877-265-5992. I repeat, 1-877-265-5992. And we are speaking with Adarsh today. So, Adarsh, can you walk us through your daily practice? How does that look like?
Yeah. I immediately sit up and meditate in the morning. So I always start with that. And then I will move more into my yoga practice. So just out of bed, I will do a few kriyas and I'll pretty much get into the asana practice right away. And even if I feel a little bit stiff or not great, the body quickly resets. So I'm still doing ashtanga yoga. So the not to be confused with the Patanjali deeper philosophical ashtanga yoga, but the ashtanga vinyasa yoga of Mysore. And I'm still practicing through the advanced series. So I will do the second series on Sunday, and then Monday through Thursday, we'll do the third series. And then on Friday, we'll do the first series again. So that's a pretty, typical or traditional Ashtanga practice. And then in the evenings, I will often do some wind down yoga. So something more on the yin side of life. And I'll also have my evening meditation before bed. So that's usually how my practice day is structured in terms of the formal practice. And then there's a lot of the informal time where I'm trying to be mindful, trying to be ergonomic. And then, of course, I'm a full-time teacher, so trying to be mindful in those environments as well.
So we got a time clock ticking. So I think we have time for just 2 questions, and I'll wrap both into one and see how it goes. So when you're guiding your students, right? So how do you connect with the internal aspects of asana, not just superficial ones, beyond just achieving the physical form? And how does the philosophy, how do you use the understanding of the philosophy for your students to go deeper into the asana practice?
Yeah, well, I think that the interstitial time that I have with the student, so these short conversations before and after the practice are the time that those things can take shape more. I like to keep people very focused during their practice on just following that without too much distraction, right? It's like a meditation. If you get lost in thought, then you're going to miss the boat completely. So I try to keep them engaged during the practice just on a simple thing, which is observing the body and breath. Then in these interstitial spaces where we're having a chat before or after, that's usually the time where I can find out what's going on and have more of an idea about the person's situation, which is always changing. But yeah, and I find I don't have to do too much in terms of guiding them as long as I'm really good at listening. Then usually they'll be able to figure it out for themselves. It's one of my favorite things about Ashtanga is that it's really up to the individual to gain that insight on their own. I'm certainly their guide, but my guidance is in the method, and then their insight should come from their experience. And I try not to intervene too much. I think a good teacher does a good job of sort of stepping back and letting the practice do its thing.
The swadhyaya,
indeed.
The element of self-study.
Absolutely. You got it.
Yeah. Any other parting words for our listeners or for ourselves? Anything that you want to say before we commence?
I think it's good for people to understand that yoga is challenging for everyone. There's going to be many obstacles that are there. It can be boring. It can be kind of painful. It hurts my hamstrings or whatever. And that's true for everyone. I've met all kinds of, famous yoga masters, and I've heard this again and again, that it's a struggle. But there's also a part of that that is super rewarding. You think about any game you're playing, you like it when it's hard. You like it when those levels are hard. Can't be impossible. Hopefully you can see yourself level up, but it's a long-term project. And I think that's a good way to remember it. You're going to have times that you're doing great and times that you're struggling, and enjoy.
That's cool. Thank you so much. And that's all the time. That's all the time we have today. Next week, we will be exploring the 4th limb of the 8 Ashtanga Yoga, pranayama. That's the unsung hero. Until then, stay well, stay mindful, stay practicing, and keep breathing. Namaste.